Hello and welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome in. And a special welcome to anyone who has ever bought Lego flowers. To anyone who has ever broken off an engagement, whether you be the person who did it or the person who received it. A special hello to anyone who owns any of the Lord of the Rings Build-A-Bears. And finally, a special hello to anyone who owns a cowboy hat. Now, one thing about me is I like to read. So that includes books. What is, duh. You ever just start yapping and you're like, what's leaving my mouth right now? Anyways, I say that because today we're gonna be doing the Men Writing Women subreddit. A lot of the time we don't get full context from the subreddit, and I do not care. This is all for fun and all for a laugh, and if it's that deep for any of them, we'll talk about why it's that deep, but for most of them, we're just here to have a giggle. You, D broke a smile. I've probably lost 25 pounds these last 3 weeks. I can't stop thinking how hot I'd look in a little bikini. Thoughts as a woman during an apocalypse as you starve to death. Me when the apocalypse hits, but I also lose 25 pounds. Okay, girl. Me when I'll probably never visit a beach again because we're in the middle of an apocalypse, but I just know if this was summer 2016, I'd fucking eat in my bikini. Also, 25 pounds in 3 weeks, that's intense. It's like the situation is dire. She hasn't eaten. The calorie deficit goes crazy. She must be on the verge of death at this point to lose 25 pounds in 3 weeks. But as she's lying there, her stomach caving in on itself, absolutely emaciated, her last thought is, I'd fuck me though. Even her breasts, he now noticed with an amused appreciation. Even her breasts were impertinent. Small, but beneath the pale blue stuff of her dress, pointed firm, almost comically insistent. No ashamed deflation here. This one almost sounds familiar, but I think this one's different. I'm pretty sure this is different, meaning that 2 different authors referred to a girl's breasts as impertinent. But this is the second time we've either had an author describe her breasts as basically being rude or being not important. I mean, I want to say he's probably trying to say, oh, they're impertinent to the situation, like they're not unimportant right now. He sure is talking about him a lot for being impertinent. Small, but beneath the pale blue stuff of her dress, called fabric, shout out, almost comically insistent. It's like they're calling to him. Look at me, I'm so small under her dress, but you need to look at me. I think you just want to look. I think you just want to look at her breasts. It's just so funny when people use the most wild descriptors as if they're trying to sound eloquent, as if they're trying to sound educated in their writing. They're trying to like pull out their thesaurus, dust it off, flip it open and be like, all right, now how can I describe breasts? We need to find some more words. It just doesn't come off well. It just doesn't feel like good writing. I'm not saying this author is bad. I've never read this book, but this paragraph in itself, it just feels like it's doing too much to describe the fact that this man wanted to look at her breasts under her dress. That's, I didn't need all of this. I'm hungry, Dana growled. You're always hungry, Lara said. I wish anorexia was contagious and I knew someone who could infect me. Oh my god, what? Throwback to me at 18. I don't know why, but this just reminded me of Pro Anna Tumblr. If you were there, you were there. If you know, you know. How that website almost made it contagious. Oh god. Yeah, this is peak Men Writing Women because, you know, we've seen like the I want to be skinny writing from men when they're talking about women. I mean, we saw it even in the first one. Wishing to have a vicious mental disorder. Okay, Cappy. Do you want to say something? You're interrupting a talk on anorexia. That's kind of rude, Cappy. Okay. Having a girl dying and being like, oh my god, I look so hot in a bikini was already kind of wild enough, but now to wish you had a vicious mental disorder with an insane death rate. Not just bad writing, not just bad, like, it's just bad in general. Like, that is an insane thing to think and then put down in writing. Reread, say looks good, send to an editor, have an editor say looks good, and then publish. Her face was unmistakably Italian, not overly beautiful, but possessing full, earthy features that even at 20 yards seemed to exude a raw sensuality. As the air currents buffeted her body, her clothes clung, accentuated her slender torso and small breasts. The way her face was unmistakably Italian, not overly beautiful, makes it sound like it's because she's Italian. Like the way this is written would make you think that he's saying her face was Italian, so therefore it wasn't that beautiful. That's just how the sentence flows, even though I assume that's not how he meant it, hopefully. Italians are beautiful. When I was younger, this is such an off-topic thing, I used to watch Mob Wives, and I'm talking when I was like 13, and I had the biggest crush on Drita. I can't like expand beyond that. I was just 13 thinking that this was the hottest woman alive. So she's not overly beautiful, yet her earthy features exude a raw sensuality. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time picturing what this lady looks like in the face. Because I'm supposed to look at her and like be like, she's not that good looking. She has very earthy features, but it exudes a raw sensuality about her, the face. Then we move on to the body, which of course, like the clothes are clinging to her body, slender, small breasts. That's all very much a regular descriptor you'll get in a lot of writing from men. That seems to be like, you know how in fanfic days it was, I pulled my messy bun up and my blue orbs peered out to my mom's kitchen. One Direction had been there to buy me. This feels like the men's version of that with the slender torso and small breasts. Abigail loved her feet. Wow, strong start. Abigail loved her feet. Small, feminine, exuding a slender, proportionate beauty her friends openly envied. I cannot speak for everyone, as I am not everyone, but I don't think I've ever looked at my friends' feet and not only envied them, but openly envied. Like, this author is saying, the girls sit around looking at her feet being like, oh my god, I just wish I could be like you with those little toesies. This little piggy went to the market. This little piggy went on your perfect slender feet. Like, absolute ick. And I'm not saying like somebody can't love that part of their body, right? Like, Abigail loved her feet. But it just feels like a weird thing for her to be thinking about her feet. My feet are so small and dainty. Look how slender and small and dainty my little footsies are. Oh, I hope everybody's jealous. Obviously, again, I can't speak for everyone, but I just feel like that thought process is a little more a man having a foot fetish rather than a woman appreciating part of her body. The first thing you noticed, couldn't help but notice in that aqua getup, was that Raya Singh had more curves than seemed anatomically possible. She stood still, but it looked as though she were moving. What? This is what I mean when I say like some of it is just bad writing. Like some of it's overly sexual and weird and has awkward descriptors, and some of it just doesn't make sense. She had more curves than seemed anatomically possible, so my brain is kind of conjuring like BBL. That's just what's kind of coming to my mind as far as like, you know, probably not naturally looking curves. I don't even know what she stood still but it looked as though she were moving is supposed to make me think. I'm really trying to take what this author is saying and put it to picture, and it's just not happening, guys. It's just, all I'm seeing is like swaying hips, but I'm not seeing like standing still swaying hips. It's like a girl standing there and it's just like getting caught in the wind and making commotion and motion. I don't, oh, that's a weird one. That's a weird one. Clean lines, round where they should be round. Her shoulders nicely sloping and set just right to carry the breasts that still needed no bra to lift them. Flat stomach, long legs, long neck, a swan neck. Fair, fair skin with an English bloom to her cheeks. A delicate face, high cheekbones, unlined yet. Long swathes of gold hair that curled of their own majesty. Yes, she told herself. For 33, you're still a woman to be desired, but the thought did not wholly please her. Guys, some of these men just tell on themselves with their writing. Some of them just be openly saying, I am only attracted to very young women. Because 33? What do you think happens at 33? Do you think people just become decrepit? Do you think the skin just starts melting from their bones? Oh my god. She still has her cheekbones and her swan neck and her fair skin. She's not fucking 90 with one foot in the grave. And it sucks because like the writing was painting the picture for me, you know? It was telling me what this person looked like. But if I'm being honest, as I was reading this, I was thinking of somebody that was like 30. Just because of the words that are used and the way the story is written, it feels like somebody that's in her 30s, which is like perfect because she is 33. But the fact that that's the shocking part is that she's 33. And guys, I don't want to. We were doing so okay, you know? The English bloom to her cheeks, the long swaths of gold hair, and then just really hot for 33. If you think 33 is old, then what do you think is an acceptable age? It feels uncomfy. Fania Farley, wacky name. Who did that to their child in this story? Like, Fania is like not bad, like Fawn, Fia, but Fania Farley? Anyway, that's not even the paragraph. That's just, sorry, I got caught on that. Thin-legged, thin-wristed, thin-armed, with clearly discernible ribs and shoulder blades that protruded, and yet when she tensed, you saw that her limbs were hard. We get it. We get it. I get it. We get it. When she reached or stretched for something, you saw that her breasts were surprisingly substantial, and when, because of the flies and the gnats buzzing the herd on this summer-closed summer day, she slapped at her neck or her backside, you saw something of how frisky she could be, despite the otherwise straight-up style. You saw that her body was something more than efficiently lean and severe, that she was a firmly made woman, precipitously poised at the moment when she is no longer ripening but not yet deteriorating, a woman in the prime of her prime, whose fistful of white hairs is fundamentally beguiling just because of the sharp Yankee contour of her cheeks and her jaw and the long, unmistakably female neck that haven't yet been subject to the transformations of aging. Sorry about Keppy, she's in a mood. Skipper came to say hi. I'm never recording when they have zoomies again. This was a mistake. I just watched him climb the side of a chair fully. This went somewhere I could not have expected. Okay, so she's working on a farm. She's thin. So this author is essentially sexualizing this woman as she's slapping away flies and gnats on what I can only assume is like a farm at this point. Maybe she is just on the porch, I don't know, but the way that he's talking about her as firmly made just gives farm vibes right now. I'm experiencing overalls in a straw hat in my vision. I gave her that. That's what she is wearing to me. I just can't get over how he goes from thin, tiny girl, blow her away, she go whoosh, to, but her boobs were pretty big. Tits, massive. If anything, honkers on that girl. And then it just flips into, but she's in her prime because she's not ripening, which by the way, I hate when authors use that word for young girls. I get what it's supposed to mean, but it just feels icky to me. Like, oh, she's a ripening young woman is kind of like how I hear it, and it just gives me the ick. But then he says not yet deteriorating. Maybe, I don't know what I would think, maybe she's like 45. But then he kind of is like talking about her white hair, fistful of white hairs. I'm having a hard time conjuring the age of this woman. Some strange descriptors, and I'm having a hard time getting exactly where we're supposed to go with this. Pal, she's class, with a terrific education on her, plus one of those jackpot body deals whereby a tall and slender-framed girl somehow ends up with heavy tits and a big tush. She has a lively tongue in her lively mouth and deep-flavored coloring. American, but English-raised. I've always had a remote and hopeless thing for her ever since film school. I'm sorry, I have to read the sentence before that now. For I have to tell you right off that Martina Twain is a real boss chick by anyone's standards, even by your lights and scales, your shadowy values, and more's you, the unknown earthling unknown to me. Boss chick being in the same sentence as earthling is getting me more than it probably should. Like, just seeing all those words so close together is interesting, I guess, to say the least. And I almost like the jackpot body deals because that feels like, I don't know, something a guy might think. Obviously a guy wrote this from a guy's perspective on this woman, and like that I don't think is bad, honestly. I think it's kind of a fun way to phrase it. That's not something I see all the time. But then we go into the slender framed girl, which we just talked about how that's the messy bun of men's writing, with heavy tits and a big tush. Heavy tits is just such a way to phrase it. They're not big, they're not massive, they're not ginormous. They're heavy. She got a pair of cannonballs on her. And for some reason, a big tush is also just sending me, like, out of all the words for butt, like, tush is so inoffensive. It's the way that it's right next to, she's got heavy tits and a big tush. The amount of words that just exist near each other, I still can't get over earthling. What is this book? I don't know what book this is. I want to know. If anybody knows, please tell me. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, like it. If you really liked it, consider subscribing. I'm sorry that the kitties were a little bit crazy during this one. That's just who they are sometimes, and we gotta respect it. She's purring right now. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.